Hey everybody out there in U2 land, I bet you've seen these bolt shrouds on Remington 700s that have this nasty J-hook safety on it. They're long, they're bulky, they're kind of a wart on a beautiful rifle, so I decided I needed to get rid of it on mine, but I didn't have a bolt mainspring press or whatever it is that Pacific Tool and Gauge calls their bolt mainspring removal tool. Like Plato said that necessity is the mother of invention, I had to put my brain to taking this thing apart without spending $30 extra. So last night I sat down here and did some figuring, and we all, just about everybody knows, if you've hunted how to take a Remington bolt apart, know that we hook that little tooth on it, pull up on it, and we can stick a penny in the back side and makes taking this apart easier. So I'm going to do that real quick on my wife's dining room table while I stick the penny underneath it. So there you got that installed. You got your penny stuck in your firing pin lever bolt shroud, and that gives you the ability to just unscrew that. And once you get that unscrewed, that's really, as far as all the videos go I've seen, as far as you can go without buying fancy tools. But I got to thinking last night that, you know, this is threaded for this, and I ought to be able to make a press out of it if I put my brain to it. So I figured out that if I took this very expensive 1-inch long piece of 3/8 copper tubing, stuck it over my firing pin, is what I had was a bolt mainspring press made by Remington. So here we go. When you do this, you gotta push your bolt shroud in pretty hard to engage them threads and give her a whole revolution so it don't slip off there. So we're gonna try that. Push her in there, get us some threads going. There, your penny fell out because it's engaged, and this is what we got. We got our bolt lever stuck, or your firing pin lever stuck out there. We got our bolt shroud there, and we need to grab a hold of her pretty tight. We're going to whack on it pretty hard to get that firing pin cross pin out of there so we can get this, show you how to take this shroud off here. I'm going to use a vise to hold everything good and tight so it don't go flying while I'm whacking and stacking and hooking and jabbing. We go for the camera. Don't know how good this is going to go. This thing's been out once or twice, so it's not going to be as... Yours is going to be harder, I promise. But how was that? You saw my ugly mug. Don't be scared, children. Here we go. You like apples? How about them apples? There, I got that time while that camera was falling. They didn't say I was a videographer, I tell you. So I couldn't find a really small punch to get that out, and that's a cut off small, probably I don't know, 3/32 Allen key that I cut off for this project. There you go, your firing pin, cross pin come out. Set that aside so you don't lose it. And now we have our firing pin lever off. Look at that. Didn't take no $30 part to do it either. Set that down. Take our bolt out of our vise. Leave our vise close. We're going to need that in just a few minutes. Put that pin back in so we don't go beating on it. Now this is under spring pressure. So you be careful taking this off of this bolt shroud because it may wind up to the window over on the other side of the room. Just push on it. Back her out. See, it ain't too hard if you're pushing on it. Got your mainspring and your firing pin. Inspect your firing pin. Be a good time to clean off any old grease and add some grease to this. It ought to be able to slide easily. It's got this super clean because I've taken it apart a half a dozen times the last couple days. But this is the last time I'm doing it. And I got some assembly grease right over here. Casey's Snow assembly gun grease. You don't use oil on a bolt. Put you a little grease on here. Don't need a whole lot. Rub it all over it. Like I said, this ain't a wheel bearing. This ain't going 6,000 RPMs. Don't need it too thick. So there we go, we got that. We're going to reassemble now. This is all there is to it. Really isn't that tough. See that notch right there in that firing pin? It looks like that'll weaken that, won't it? Put my finger behind it so you can see that notch. Cut halfway through. That's one of them things about them J-hooks. The reason Remington quit making them on their Remington 700s, because they have to cut their safety or their firing pin like that to do that. So I recommend you replace that firing pin and replace that J-hook safety. That thing's going to go in a pond sometime soon. But there's that firing pin. You put your firing pin mainspring back on there. And you remember you got your very expensive piece of copper on there. You stick it on a firing pin, stick her down that hole. This is all there is to it. Put your bolt shroud back on there. Give her a good push. Turn while you're pushing. Okay, she's on there. That notch that's in there, it faces the top of the bolt shroud, so turn it to the top. You can turn your firing pin a little bit too. You may have to stick something in your firing pin to turn it because it's pretty stout under that spring pressure. Make sure that notch is facing up. Hit your bolt lever. Your firing pin lever. Stick her back on there and make sure she's lined up through. Put that pin in. Then you stick it in your vise. See if you can see that pin. We're going to use our vise to put that in there instead of beating on it. Goes in pretty easy. Ain't hitting on it nothing. Just about in. Run her down so she hits. And we're done. Alright. Now you got to get your penny back in there too so you don't have to use your shoelace to assemble it when you get pretty close. Look at that. There's that. Pull that out. You know what? I needed a little bit of threads right there, a little bit of grease there too. We're gonna have to get a better stand for our iPad to do videos. Put a little bit of grease on them threads, ain't gonna hurt a thing. You know what? Put a little grease on that spring too. I cleaned that bolt out real good while I had her apart. Remember, don't put too much. Stick a little grease right here on this cam slot. And you'll also put a little grease right there on the cam on the bolt side. Not much. Wipe it off with your finger. What's left is plenty. Run your bolt back together. Line up your cocking notch with your bolt. Hook your bolt on the edge of the table. Pull your penny out. And there you go. We got us a brand new bolt shroud on a Remington without a wart on it. And again, necessity being the mother of invention, it didn't cost me $30. All it cost me was a piece of copper tubing I had out in the shed. About 1 inch long. That ought to work with a long action or a short action, and it ought to help you have a better looking Remington. Be safe and shoot straight. God is good all the time.